Hi everyone, welcome to the Crafty Pixie channel where we do sewing projects and subscription boxes. I am Bee. Whether you are new or old to this channel, thank you so much for stopping by. It is wonderful to have you. Don't forget, if you haven't already, hit that subscribe button and the notification bell so you know when I upload every Wednesday morning. Leave a comment in the comment section, especially if you are a new subscriber, and give the video a thumbs up. Okay, in today's video, we are doing the Sewers Club unboxing. It finally came in the mail. It was a little delayed. I think it was due to the holiday, but it's here. It's here. So we're gonna open it, and it's making noise. So there's hardware of some kind in here, whether it's a zipper or whatnot. So I'm interested to see what's inside. A little bit of information on this box. This box you can get monthly for $31.99 a month, or you can do it every 3 months, or you can pay for it every year. This one, my plan in particular, is every month. So $31.99 a month as of the date this was filmed. It can change. Definitely check with the website for sure. If you haven't already subscribed to this box, in the description box below, I'll have a link for $5 off your first box. So don't forget to take advantage of that as well. Okay, enough talking. Let's get into the box. I have not opened this. I'm literally breaking the seal as I'm talking with you guys. Okay, so let's see. Ooh, okay. Okay. All right, so, well, when I open the box, this is what you see inside the box. Let's see. This is the on-the-go stylish side tie bag. Finish is approximately 9.5 inches by 8.5 inches closed, and it's in a baggie. So looks like there's way more directions than in previous boxes. So let's pull it out and take a look. Okay, this is a beginner-friendly side bag. And it is 1, 2, 3 pages of directions. Okay. We can do that. That's not a... We got this. I've made a bag or two in my time. Okay. So... Actually, I'm not going to even bother doing that. Alright. Let's see... Okay. All right, let's see. Okay, yep, there was jinglies. There is some D-rings. You can see those. All right, we got some D-rings, and it looks like, oh, we got a bunch of stuff. Okay, let's see. Oh, we got a magnetic closure as well. Double the goodies. And then of course we've got our Gutermann thread, and this is in steel blue. So it's color 237. It's steel blue. Really, I like this blue. And I just learned something really cool about the Gutermann threads. On the bottom, when you unhook it, it actually has this little piece that you can put the thread into, or you can store you should be able to store a needle on there for like quick sewing or anything. So that's really cool for that. Okay, so fabric, let's see. This is our first fabric. Oh, this is kind of cute. Okay, this is our first fabric. It's got bicycles on it, and it's a deep blue. I like that. I like that color. Okay. All right, and then our next one. This is cute. Okay. This is super cute. It's like summer fun. So bathing suits, beach bags, bicycles, shoes, cotton candy, ice cream. That is super cute. And it's like a gray background. That's cute. Okay. I like it. All right. And then we've got a big, red is my favorite color. I am very happy that they stuck red fabric in here. Red is my favorite color. Like red and black. So this is the red fabric. It looks like quite a bit of fabric here actually. And it's got little bicycles on it. That is super cute. Okay. I'm very excited for this bag. Okay, let's see what else we got. And we've got a lot of fusible fleece. Just normal, yeah, normal fusible fleece. I love fusible fleece. It's so soft. It is so soft. Okay. All right. Well, that's the bag. So definitely another fun one that I'm excited to do. This is the June's box, of course. If you got the extra, if you paid the extra add-ons, which I think is like $9 a month extra, you would have gotten a machine needle threader and measuring guide. That's cool. All right. I really like this fabric. I'm super excited for this fabric. And it looks like on the picture, it looks like it's quilted. Not the greatest with quilting, so that should be fun. But I made those pot holders, so I mean, all right. Yep, of course. Yeah, read all of the instructions and everything like that. This doesn't look too bad. Woohoo! All right. Well, looks like this can be done with under a yard of fabric each. So like the two, I'm just reading and not looking at the camera. Sorry. So these two look like they're fat quarters. And then this is like 2/3 of a yard. So, all right, well, without any further ado, let's get to the rest of the materials and get started. For this project, you're gonna need a few items. Biggest thing with this project, you have enough fabric for the project. There's nothing left over except a little bit of the red. So be very careful when you're cutting everything out and make sure you read the instructions before you cut anything out. So you're going to need 2 exterior pieces. Now these are both interfaced with the fusible fleece. You're going to need 2 interior pieces. You're going to need the pocket piece, the shoulder strap piece, the tassels, and then you're going to need the pocket fold over for the top of the bag. You're going to need 2 pieces of that. One of them is fused with the fusible fleece. You're going to need your hardware. It's always a good idea to have a ruler, clips or pins, a seam ripper, just in case, you never know. A marking tool is always good to have on hand, your scissors, the coordinating thread, an ironing mat, sewing machine, seam gauge, of course your directions, and in these directions there is a little corner piece right here. Make sure you cut that out because you're going to need to make some marks using it. All right, so let's get started. First things first, we're going to work on the strap. So we've got our nice long piece of fabric C, and on the 2 shorter ends, with the wrong side facing up, we're going to press the shorter ends in 1/4 inch. Okay, so just literally fold it in 1/4 inch. If you want to use your seam gauge, you can do that. If not, of course, you're more than welcome to eyeball it. And then we're just going to press it so it stays down. And we're going to do the same thing to the other side. Make sure it is on the wrong side of the fabric. All right, now what we're going to do is we're going to fold the entire thing in half so that the long sides are touching. Just like so. Make sure you are aligned on your raw edges. If you don't want to do this and you just want to draw a center mark, you're more than welcome to do that as well. I find this to be the easiest way for me to comprehend what I'm doing. All right, just like that. And then we're gonna open it, and we're just going to, like we make any other strap, we're just going to take it and fold it in so that the raw edges meet that center mark that you just made. Do it all the way across. All right, just like that. And then of course you're going to do it to the other side. This time, just fold it in. You can hear a lawnmower in the background. My neighbor is mowing their lawn. Go figure. All right, once you're done doing that, go ahead and now fold it again in half so that your folded edges are aligned. Give it a good press to keep it there. And of course, you know, stick some pins in there or clips in there so that while you're at the sewing machine, it doesn't move on you. All right, once you're done clipping it, if you're gonna clip it, you're gonna take this over to the sewing machine, and with 1/8 of an inch seam allowance, we're just going to stitch right along the folded, or where the two folded ends come together. We're gonna stitch all the way across. Make sure you backstitch at the beginning. Sorry. Make sure you backstitch at the beginning and at the end. So I'm going to finish clipping and do that, and I will be right back. With that sewn and pressed, we're going to put that to the side. Next, you're going to grab your two pieces that are going to be the tassels. So when you're cutting them, it is fabric C, and it is the side ties is what they're called. So you've got two of those. And what we're going to do is we're going to fold these in half with right sides together. I'll do one. If you want to press, you can, but you don't have to. These, we're gonna like finger press it down, make sure the raw edges are together. We're gonna clip. We're gonna do the exact same thing to both. So I'm gonna show you on one. so that you can see. Okay. All right, like that. Now we're going to take our marking tool and our ruler, and we're gonna mark in 1 inch from the shorter end. This is why it's important that you're even. Okay, and then we're gonna make a little line. And I like to do this because this is gonna help me. I'm just gonna connect just like that. So we're gonna connect this corner with the 1 inch line. And then we're gonna do the same thing over here. So make sure you're 1 inch, make your little line. And you're doing this on the wrong side of the fabric. Don't do this on the right side of the fabric. And then we're gonna just join the two, like so. Okay. And then, per the instructions, we're going to trim it. Okay, so we're going to literally cut. This is why it's very important that you're aligned. We're gonna cut from the corner all the way down to the mark we made. If you want, you can stick a pin there or a clip. I always say pin, but I'm using clips. And then we're going to do the exact same thing to the other one. Okay, now when you do that to both of them, you're going to take this over to the sewing machine, and with a 1/4 inch seam allowance, you're going to start at your point, sew down, pivot, and come across. You're going to leave a like 1.5 inch opening right in the center of this. I'm literally gonna make my, you can eyeball it, you don't have to measure it, okay? And then you're gonna backstitch really well at the beginning and the end, and then you're gonna backstitch again here and come all the way across and come up and backstitch to end. You're gonna do this to both of the tassels or trim, whatever you want to call it. Okay, so I'm going to go do that. I'll be right back. With that stitched, I went ahead and turned them right side out. It is really annoying because the space that you're turning it through is right here, so there isn't a lot of it. It is tedious and time consuming. I did use a seam turner, hold on, to poke out the sides as much as possible. Before I turned them over, I did cut close to the stitching on the flat sides and on the curve. I tried my best, not really great with that. So now in the instructions it says you can either top stitch to seal it closed, or you can stitch it by hand and blind stitch it so you don't see any of the stitching. I'm gonna go ahead and machine sew it. I'm just going to top stitch at 1/8 of an inch seam allowance right across the opening so that I can just seal everything up. So I'm going to do that, and then on to the next step. With those sealed and pressed, you can put them to the side. Next, you're going to grab your bag flap piece that is not interfaced. You're going to grab your male end of the magnetic snap with its washer, a marking tool, your seam ripper, And I like to use some fusible fleece just to bulk up that area really, really well. Now what we're going to do is we're going to measure. This is your shorter side, so you want that at the top. You're gonna measure down 1.5 inches in the center. So we're going to come over and fold it in half, matching the two longer sides. Give it a good pinch. Now you can either cut a very tiny snip in it, or you can use your marking tool, whichever one you choose. I'm gonna do a little snip, just a little one. You don't need it big. Okay, so there's that. And then we're gonna measure down 1.5 inches. All right, so there's your 1.5 inches down. We're gonna take our washer, line that up with your center mark, and we're going to draw the two lines. Make sure it's squared up correctly. So we're gonna mark the sides, just like that. And then we're also going to take our one piece of fusible fleece, and we're gonna mark that as well. This is just gonna bulk it so that when you're using it and, you know, cutting it, or not cutting it, but like opening it and closing it and opening and closing it, you're not going to break your fabric because it's too thin. Okay, so that's in the center, 1.5 inches down. Okay, and then we're going to take our seam ripper and we're just going to rip where we drew those lines so that the prongs will fit in a little bit easier. Just a little bit. You don't have to cut it the whole length. You want this to be a little bit snug because you don't want this moving around too much in the fabric. So you go ahead and take your male end and slide it right through the holes you just made. Sometimes you have to coax it to do what it's told. There we go. There we go. Okay. Stick your fusible fleece right on top. You can fuse this down if you want to. You don't have to. All right, just like that. Take your washer, place it right on top, and you can either fold the prongs out or you can fold them in on each other. I usually fold them out, like so. So now you're in place. And then I'll just take this over to the sewing machine, not sewing machine, iron, and I'm just going to fuse the two pieces together just so that it doesn't rub against the other side of the fabric piece as well. So I'm going to do that. I'll be right back. Now that that is done, so you got the fusible fleece on that, you can stick that to the side. You're going to grab one of your exterior fabrics. I decided I'm going to use this one for the exterior because it's so darn cute. Be careful when you're fusing the fusible interfacing. It kind of wrinkled a little bit, so I'm really going to have to press this when I'm done. But you're going to take the shorter side. I know they both look the same size, but they're not. This side is longer. So you're gonna want your shorter side, and you're gonna wanna measure 4 inches down from the center. So of course, fold it in half like so, make a mark or a teeny tiny snip. Doesn't need to be big, just enough for you to realize. All right, and then we're gonna measure 4 inches down from the center. Okay, 4 inches down. And then we're gonna do the exact same thing that we did with the male end, but to the female end. So take your washer, make sure you're lined up. All right, take your washer, place it down. Make your marks, like so. Take the washer, make the mark on the fusible fleece. Well, actually, there's already fusible fleece on this, so you just put the fusible fleece on top of the backing so it doesn't tear anything. Now we're going to seam rip it a little bit. You got to make sure you get through the fusible fleece and the fabric without cutting yourself. These seam rippers are very sharp. All right, place your female end in, like so. Now you can always test to make sure that this is in the correct position for the top or the bottom, but you should be fine. And then take the washer, put it on top, bend the prongs so it seals, like so, just like that. And then you'll take your fusible fleece and you'll just fuse it, or you can use some Fabri-Tac or any kind of fabric glue and glue that down. You can use that too, you don't have to use the iron. All right, so I'm gonna iron this down, I'll be right back. Next, we are going to take our 2 bag flaps and the little drawing that or pattern piece they have included in this one, and we're going to take it because we're going to be rounding all 4 edges or corners of these 2 pieces. So you're literally going to take the curve, line it right up with the edge like that, and you're going to use your marking tool and make a line or curve, I should say, like that on all 4 sides of both pieces. I already did them, so I'm just showing you this one. And then you're going to simply cut along that curve. So just cut around that curve and you are done there. Next, we're going to sew the 2 of them together. Okay, so you're going to take your 2 pieces and with right sides together, you're going to place the piece with the fusible fleece while the other is not, and you're going to sew around the edge at a 1/2 inch seam allowance, and you're going to leave a 2 to 3 inch opening in the bottom, or in between the 2, so 2 to 3 inch opening here right in the bottom, so that we can turn this right side out. So simply take the 2 Line them up right sides together. It doesn't matter if the fusible fleece is the piece that's on the top or on the bottom. It doesn't matter. And you're going to take your clips and you're going to simply clip around the edge. Like so. You're going to leave your 2 to 3 inch opening at the bottom. Definitely want to give yourself enough room to turn this out because you've got the fusible fleece, so it's going to be a little bulky. And then okay. Right, like I said, you're going to go around with a 1/2 inch seam allowance. And you're going to backstitch really well at the beginning and the end because you do have to turn this out. You don't want to rip your stitches. So I'm going to go do that and I will be right back. Once you are done sewing around the edges, you can use your pinking shears. If you have a pair of pinking shears, basically they got little triangles cut into them. So it cuts your fabric with a triangle in it. If you don't have it, then you can simply cut around, cut the seam allowance down except where you're sealing it. Okay. And then where the curve is, just make little rectangles and cut them out. Do not cut into your stitches. Once you're done with that, you're basically going to turn everything right side out. So just grab and carefully and slowly pull it out. You don't want to break those stitches. You do have the fusible fleece. All right. And we're just going to turn everything. You want to poke out those curves as much as you can. It's going to give you a nice crisp edge. Just like that. All right, reach my hand in here. If you want to use your seam turner, you're more than welcome to. You don't have to though. Okay, there's your bag, or flap, not your bag, your flap. All right, now what we're gonna do is we're just gonna fold the edge in here so that they are matching, so that when we sew it, we'll sew it closed. You're gonna take this over to the sewing machine, of course, and give it a press so that everything is even, but I'm just clipping it right now. And then of course you're going to come through and press it flat. Now, going forward, the side that has your magnetic snap is your top. This is your bottom, okay? All right, so I'm gonna go give this a good press and I will be right back. Once that's pressed, what we're going to do is we're going to take our top, which is the part with the snap, and we're gonna flip it, okay, because we're gonna be top stitching and this is gonna be shown on the outside of the bag, so you have to have the pretty stitching on the top, okay? Now we're going to measure 4 4.25 inches from the bottom. Now the bottom is where the opening is that we just pinned or clipped or pinned. Okay, now it's going to be 4.25, not, yeah, 4.25, sorry. See if we'll do it this way, but you just have to be very, very careful. Make sure you've got a marking tool that will erase. So 4.25 from the bottom edge, and you're going to make a little itty bitty line, just a dot, okay? And you're going to do the same thing on the other side. Okay, and you want to make sure that they're actually, okay, they are. Okay, so now we're going to take this over to the sewing machine and we're going to top stitch with 1/8 inch seam allowance from dot, back stitch, come up and around, and then stop at your other dot, back stitch. This is going to be the top stitching for the outside of the bag, so make sure that you're top stitching on the side that has your magnetic snap, okay? Once you're done doing that, go ahead and give it a press. I'm going to do that and I will be right back. With that top stitched and pressed, you can set that aside for a moment. Next, we're going to take our exterior piece that does not have the snap on it. You're going to mark or clip your center piece of the shorter end, and then we're going to draw a line down the center connecting them. Now I'm using tailor's chalk because this is the outside of the bag and I want to make sure this erases. And tailor chalk really does erase very well. Okay, so I made that mark. Next, we're going to mark another line that is 6 inches down from that. So, hold on. So you have to decide what is your top and what is your bottom, okay? Because we're going to be marking 6 inches from the top. Okay. Make sure you're aligned up because these measurements are very important. Sometimes fabric that has print on them messes me up a little bit. All right, and then we're going to draw a line all the way across. Just like that. So now you've got a center mark, okay? Next, we're going to take the flap and we're going to take the part that does not have any of the stitching. So we're going to be doing pretty much the same thing. So find your center marking, only this time I'm not cutting into this because it is going to be shown. So I'm just squeezing hard, forming that little crease, and then I'm just doing an itty bitty line right there. And then I'm going to do the same thing to the other side. Now this one can be a little bit tricky because it has the snap on it. So just bear that in mind. I'm just going to do just a little itty bitty. Now this will come off in the wash, but I just want to make sure we don't have any issues. So, all right, so I did that, and now we're going to do the same thing, and we're going to draw a line. You guys are not going to be able to see this line. But as long as you follow the directions and follow what I'm doing, you're going to be okay. We're dealing with this open piece here. So, all right, so we're going to collect those two little dots that I did. Okay, just like that. I'm gonna put my clips back in so I don't lose my closure here. Okay, there we go. Next, we're going to take the outer piece. Okay, and our flat piece. Got to make sure I'm doing this right for you guys because I'm making it for the first time. Now you're going to take your piece. The fusible fleece side is going to be up facing you, which is the side that you should have marked the center line with. Now you're going to take your raw edge, so your bottom piece that does not have the top stitching, you're going to center it. So you're going to line up this line with the middle line on your exterior, and you're going to line up the bottom edge with that 6-inch line that you drew. Just like that. Make sure it is aligned. Okay? And we're going to pin it in place. Just like that. Okay. The directions seem really confusing, but follow the directions. They are correct, okay? So, just like that. Make sure everything stayed aligned. You're also going to pin the side. You really want to make sure this doesn't move because it's going to be a pain to have to rip all these stitches out and do it again. Okay? And this has to stay even because it has to line up. The magnetic snaps have to line up together for them to close. Okay, so you've got your magnetic snap up here facing down. Okay. All right, now we're going to take this over to the sewing machine, and you're going to top stitch at a 1/8 of an inch all the way down around the bottom and up the other side. Now you are going to stop. Okay, this is very important. You're going to stop or start and stop your stitching 1.25 inches from the top. So 1.25 inches down, is where you're going to start your top stitching. You want the existing top stitching and the top stitching that you're doing to be seamless, okay? This is going to create a pocket. So you really want to make sure you seal this up and everything. When you get to the corners here, you can always backstitch to reinforce the corners. Just be careful that you're staying seamless, okay? I'm going to go do that and then give it a press, and I will be right back. With this done, you can set it aside. You see you've got the little pocket there. All right, so with that done, set it aside. Next, we're going to take our pocket piece, right side up, and we're gonna fold it so that the shorter sides are meeting. Okay, right like that. And we're going to pin it into place. You're going to leave about 1.5 inches opening so that we can turn it right side out. All right, so now with a 1/2 inch seam allowance, we're going to backstitch at the beginning and the end. You're going to come up, you're going to backstitch and stop here. You're going to start your stitches again here, backstitch, and come all the way down, backstitch. When you're done, you're going to trim your corners a little bit so they make a nice square when you're done. You can trim up the sides if you want to, just don't trim right here. And then we're going to turn it right side out. When you turn it right side out, give it a good press to make it nice and even. And then you're going to fold your opening in, and you're going to top stitch at 1/8 inch seam allowance right across the top here, okay? So I'm going to go do that, and I'll be right back. With your top stitching for the pocket done, next we're going to take a interior piece, doesn't matter which one. You're going to make a mark on the center line, as well as make a mark on the center of your pocket. And you're going to measure down from that center line 2 inches. Make sure you're level and everything. And then you're going to line up the center marks. And you're going to pin in place. Okay, now you're going to take this over to the sewing machine, and with 1/8 inch seam allowance, you're going to stitch along the sides, bottom, and up the other side. Make sure you backstitch at the beginning and the end. Since this is going to be a pocket, you can also backstitch right here on the corners just to reinforce them a little bit. So I'm going to go do that, and I will be right back. This step is a two-parter. So we're going to take our interior pieces and we're going to lay them right sides together. Okay, with the top of the panels on the facing on the top. So you should have your pocket opening, so that indicates the top there. Now we're going to literally clip around the 3 edges. Now on the bottom, you need to leave like a 4-inch opening right here down at the bottom. because this is where we're going to turn the bag inside out. I don't think 4 inches is very much to do what you got to do, but we don't have a lot of room at the bottom to make that any bigger. So when you are turning it inside or right side out, you just have to be really, really careful of the stitching. Make sure you back stitch really well, or several times at the beginning and the end. So we're just going to clip. You are not sewing the top either, okay? You're just going to be sewing both long sides and part of the bottom. Okay, and you are going to be sewing this at a 1/2 inch seam allowance. And then you're going to be taking your exterior pieces, and with the flap panel inside, you're going to lay that right side together so that the top of the bag is at the top, and we are going to clip the 3 sides. You are not leaving an opening at the bottom. You want to make sure that this flap is tucked in really, really well, because you don't want that getting sewn down where it doesn't belong. Okay. And this is going to be a little bulky because you've got the fusible fleece on both sides. So we're gonna just clip, and you're also sewing this at a 1/2 inch seam allowance as well. Be careful when you are stitching that you're not getting that flap in there. Okay, so I am going to take both of these panels over to the sewing machine, do the 1/2 inch seam allowance, backstitch really well at the beginning and at the end, especially where we're going to be pulling everything through, and I'll be right back. With that done, we are now going to box the corners. So I've done all of the other corners, but I'm going to show you on this one. So basically, on both sides of the fabric, you're going to mark a square 1.5 inches in from your seam. So basically, take your ruler. You're not going to be able to see because this thread matches really, really well with the fabric. Okay, so we're at 1.5 inches. So we're just going to trace it. We're going to do it on both corners. And this is the bottom corner. We're going to do it on both corners, both sides of both the interior and exterior panels. Okay, so then you're going to take this, once that triangle on both sides is made, and we're going to open it, and we're going to fold until the squares that we made make triangles, just like that. And then we're going to open the seams as well. Just like that. Isn't this an easy way to box your corners? Okay, and then we're just going to take 2 clips so things don't move. And then we're going to take this over to the sewing machine, and we're going to sew right across the line that we made on all 4 corners. And then when you're done, you're going to trim it to a 1/4 inch seam allowance on all of them to reduce the bulk at the bottom. So I'm going to go finish that, and I'll be back. With that all done, this is what you're looking at. You've got a nice boxed bottom. Now we're going to turn the exterior right side out. I can already tell this bag is going to be a pain to turn right side out. All right, so Okay. So you've got your nice boxed bottom and your flap for the top. Now what we're going to do is we're going to mark our placement for our tassels, ties, whatever you want to call them. I'm going to use my seam gauge for this next part. You're going to want to measure down 1.25 inches from the top of the bag. I'm going to be using chalk as well, just to make sure. I'm going to be doing this a little bit differently than what the directions say. Feel free to follow exactly what the directions say, but I think I'm just going to do it kind of my way, and I'm going to show you how I do it my way. So basically we're going to mark 1.25 inches down. Now when we mark 1.25 inches down, it should line up with where the flap is attached to the back of the exterior, okay? And then you just want to make a line there. Make that a little bit thicker or darker. Okay, like that. And I know you guys can't see that really well. Sorry. We're going to do that to both sides, or both side pieces. Now the way I'm going to do this, I'm actually going to use a zipper foot when I sew this, just so that I can get as close to the D-ring as possible. 1.25 inches, pretty much aligned there. Make the mark there. That didn't come out at all. Hold on. Inch and a quarter. Okay, and then this you're probably going to have to use pins for as well. All right, so now what we're gonna do is we're gonna take one of our tassels. Let me see exactly what they call it. Hold on. Ties. We're gonna take one of the ties and we're just gonna loop it through so that we're even, like so. And you're gonna wanna off kilter it just a little bit so you can kind of see both ends, like that, okay? If you want to put a clip down toward the bottom, you can, or down a little bit so they kind of stay that way, you can do that, okay? And then we're going to take it and we're going to place where it's curved right here, right along the line that you just made, like that, okay? The way I'm doing it, you really want to make sure this is aligned, okay? So just like that, I'm going to pop a pin right here. Just like so. Okay, and you're going to want to sew as close to the bottom of this D-ring as you can so that nothing is really moving all that much. And you're going to repeat this process, or the process that it says in the pattern, to the other side as well. And then you're going to want to backstitch really well, because this part right here is going to be what's holding it to the strap. Okay, so you want to make sure that there's enough there for you, okay? You want to make sure there's enough strength because it's going to carry the weight of the bag. So I'm going to go ahead and do that, and then I'll be right back. With that done, this is what you should be looking at. Okay, now we're going to pretty much finish assembling the bag. Okay, so we're going to tuck our exterior inside of our interior. Now, you're going to want to tuck it in so that right sides are together and that your pocket for the interior pocket and your flap are on the same side. So just tuck it in. You want to keep everything tucked away so that you're not getting it caught when you're sewing the top, okay? So try your best, and then of course you'll have to fidget with it. But just tuck that in. Okay, just like that. And then you're gonna line up your side seams and clip them in place. Clips are your friends here, or pins, whichever one you're using. Okay, make sure everything is tucked away. You do have a 1/2 inch seam allowance. Make sure you tuck enough away. Okay, so side seam and side seam, come on. Like so. It's giving me a hard time. There we go. Then you just keep pinning around the entire thing. If you made your little notches for the centerpieces, that's definitely going to help you attach everything and keep everything aligned. You want to make sure there's no puckering. You want to make sure everything is even. All right, so you're going to take this over to the sewing machine. You may have to do some fidgeting as you're sewing, but we're going to sew this at a 1/2 inch seam allowance all the way around the top of the bag, okay? Just pulling that flap down, making sure everything is out of the way. Okay, so I'm going to go do that. If you're having a hard time getting this sewn, a good tip is to take off your removable body plate of your sewing machine, like where the expanded part. That way it's a smaller area and you'll be able to get it around a little bit easier. Now remember, when we are sewing this, make sure you find your good spot to backstitch. I like to go in the middle and start, just so that it gives me enough space to make it even. Okay, so I'm gonna go ahead and go do all of that and turn it right side out, and I will be right back. With the stitching done and everything turned right side out, this is what you're looking at. This is a really cute bag. I really like this bag. It took me a little longer to kind of see what it was going to look like, but this is really, really cute. Now when you turn it right side out, make sure everything is, you know, where it's supposed to be and everything. And then I went ahead and pressed the top and then put clips around, because we're going to go ahead and top stitch the whole thing, so the interior stays where the interior belongs and the exterior stays where it belongs. Once you're done sewing the 1/8 of an inch seam allowance for the top stitch, you can go ahead and seal the bottom of the bag, that where we pulled everything through. Oh, I wasn't all the way pulled out. Okay, so basically, you know, we've sealed enough bags. So close it. You can either top stitch this shut, or you can go ahead and like blind stitch it or seam stitch it shut. That's entirely up to you if you want to hand sew or not. Turning the bag right side out actually was not as bad as I was anticipating it being. It actually cooperated when I pulled everything out, so that's good. So, you know, just pin it in place so that it doesn't move on you. All right, and then go ahead and do, now when you're sewing this, if you sew it at the sewing machine, go ahead and use an 1/8 of an inch seam allowance. You just want to make sure that gets sealed. So I'm going to go ahead and do the top stitching and the sealing, and then we'll be back to finish it up. All of the sewing done, this is what it looks like. Isn't it cute? Just enough to stick a few things in there. Okay, so now we're attaching the strap. So basically what we're going to do, I already did one side, making sure that you're not getting your strap crooked. We're going to take the end of the strap, loop it through the curved part of the D-ring, and pull it about 1/2 of an inch. If you want longer than 1/2 of an inch, by all means, go ahead and do that. I'm going to use my seam gauge. That's a little bit more than 1/2 of an inch, but that's okay. Just make sure they're even on both sides. There we go. And then you can clip or pin this in place. Now again, this strap is going to bear the weight of everything that's in your bag. So when you take this over to the sewing machine, you're going to stitch right at the edge, so anywhere from an 1/8 of an inch to 1/4 of an inch, whichever you're comfortable with here. You're going to back stitch several times just to really reinforce that, okay? All right, so I'm gonna go do that and then we'll be done. I'll be right back. All right, with a final press, you are done. Isn't this a super cute little bag? It's got the little flap here with your little interior pocket and your little exterior one. This was a lot of fun. Okay, well, don't forget to hit that subscribe button and the notification bell. Leave a comment in the comments section and give the video a thumbs up. Until next time, see ya!